It's rare when I'm the second best shooter on the show. It only happens occasionally. It certainly happens right now because Reggie Miller is on the program. Reggie called the Heat and the Bucks game, the Lakers Rockets, and tonight Celtics Raptors at 9 Eastern. Good morning, Reg. How are you?
I'm great, Theodore. Good morning. And I would put us as equals.
No, that's not true.
Hey, you're up there with me. That Dayton shot of yours. I'm telling you.
No. Do you realize, I don't know if I ever told you this story, when we had Ray Allen in studio?
No.
Okay. So I'm watching Ray shoot in the man cave. And I said, hey, the ball is resting on the palm of your hand, Ray. So I'm critiquing. So one of the top 10 shooters in the history of mankind, I'm going.
You can put him in top 5. Ray's top 5.
Okay.
Ray. Yeah.
The look he had on his face. Yes, Eaton.
I believe the exact quote when you first talked to him was, you're doing that wrong.
Oh, no.
Like, what, dude?
I don't know what made me say it, but, you shoot with your fingertips. He had it on his palm. And he goes, like, what are you talking about? I said, I should be able to put my finger underneath between the ball and your hand. Am I right with that, Reg?
You're right with that, but listen, it goes to show you that shooting are like fingerprints. Everyone is totally different, and everyone has different release points. My elbow is out when I shot. Ray has textbook form with his elbow being in. So everyone is different. But the fact that you would correct the all-time leader in three-pointers made in the NBA, I mean, it's why you're Theodore, though.
I don't lack confidence when it comes to shooting.
You do not.
And you're right. You have your elbow out. And I remember when I was shooting and we had a basketball hoop at the Super Bowl in Indianapolis, and Larry Bird was watching. And Larry came on and he said, your elbow, it's out. And he was critiquing my shot because my elbow was out, just like yours. So, all right. Yeah, just letting you know.
Hey, does the ball go in?
Yeah, exactly.
It goes in. That's all that matters.
Do you realize I'm still trying to perfect my shot at my age with nothing to play for? Do you do that?
I do when I do. It's like golf. Even professional golfers still take lessons and they still critique themselves. And I think shooting and playing the game of basketball is a lot like golf because there is no such thing as perfection. And it's interesting because when I was calling the Lakers games last night, because their offense right now, it's like been on hiatus. It has not found its way to the bubble yet.
Yeah.
And they were playing so great up to that point. And their shooting, if you look at their numbers, I believe we mentioned it, over their last 2 games, they're like 6 for 50 from 3. And you're wondering, is it legs? Are they tired? Their offense does not seem to be in sync. And this is with LeBron. I know LeBron didn't play last night, but 2 nights ago versus OKC he played.
But how concerned would you be if you're a Laker fan right now?
I said this on air last night. I understand they have the number 1 seed in the West, and they are trying different things and trying to figure out. But you've got to have some type of rhythm going into the playoffs. And everyone is in a unique situation here where I wouldn't be as concerned if they were playing in Staples in front of 20,000 fans and you get that energy and you get a little pumped up. You are in a unique environment where home court will not matter. And if you don't have a great rhythm starting the playoffs on August 17th, to me, that's the only thing that's a little unsettling, is because they don't have a rhythm yet offensively. The only team in the bubble, the Lakers, with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, that are not averaging 100 points. Yeah. With those 2 great players, it's a little concerning for me.
Everybody is scoring in the bubble except for the Lakers. But is there a reason why everybody is, let's take the Lakers out of the equation. Why is it that scoring is up so high?
I think the big thing is teams are manufacturing their own energy. And there's less pressure on some teams because usually in their home court advantage, like for instance, Philadelphia before Ben Simmons got injured. Every time he caught the ball at home in Philly, everyone wanted him to shoot threes. The crowd would gasp. There's pressure playing in certain environments and situations. In the bubble, there's no fans, there's no degree of pressure. It's really who wants it more. And I think you're seeing, especially some of the elite guys like a Devin Booker, it doesn't matter if he's playing in front of 20,000 or two people, put on absolute shows. TJ Warren, these guys have got a new lease on their games because they're just going out and playing. And I think that's why scoring and shooting is up, because more guys and teams are playing more free and open.
I don't know if you heard this. It was like a throwaway line from LeBron where he talked about something off the court. But he said, I don't want to get into that now. I think this might have been after the game that he had the quote. I don't know what he's alluding to here, but just the fact that you mentioned that he mentions it, now my curiosity is piqued of, wait, what is bothering him so much so that he would bring it up during a press conference or kind of bring it up there? I don't know if you heard that comment from him.
I didn't hear, but let's remember now, there's so much going on. We're in the middle, obviously, of a pandemic. These players still want to have their voices heard in terms of social justice. So there's still things surrounding and affecting these guys while they're in the bubble. So you don't know if he's alluding to something off the court in terms of his activism, or if he's talking about something internally that's going on with the team.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a gauge on what's going on with the Lakers or LeBron. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's a red flag comment coming from LeBron, who sat out last night with a little bit of a growing issue.
If you had to bet a week's pay on the Lakers or Clippers right now, today.
I'm going with the Clippers.
Yeah.
I just think they're deep. How they play the game in terms of their length. They got Lou Williams back. I know Beverly didn't play last night, but to me, they are the favorites to win the West because of that depth, and they've got two guys, in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who can dictate the outcome of a game at both ends of the floor. And both are young, both have experience in the playoffs, well coached by Doc Rivers, who's won a championship. I personally would lean toward, especially after looking at the offense.
Yeah.
For the Lakers, I'm leaning towards the Clippers in this type of environment.
Third best team in the West is who?
I would probably go with, I want to put Denver in there, but they've had so many injuries and they don't have their starting lineup. Though the way Michael Porter Jr. is playing, and they still have Jokic, who looks great. OKC, people are not giving Chris Paul enough credit for, everyone thought it was going to be a pit stop for him this year. And he has Oklahoma City playing at a very high level. In terms of, scary teams, I've got to put the Houston Rockets in there in this looking at them last night. If they are making shots, look, they're going to get killed on the boards. We've seen that. They're getting out rebounded by 20 a game. But if they can turn you over, which we've seen, and they can get out in transition, and they've got two guys that flat out put pressure on you offensively on every possession in Harden and Westbrook, I would probably have to say the Rockets are probably the most scary team because of the unpredictability of what they bring with that 6-7 lineup and being able to switch everything. And PJ Tucker defensively, what he did last night versus Anthony Davis was phenomenal at the defensive end.
Reggie called the Heat and Bucks last night, along with the Lakers and Rockets. Tonight, it's Celtics and Raptors. That's 9 Eastern on TNT. Here's the exact quote from LeBron. He said, "It's just some things that you can't control that's here that I really don't want to talk about. That's off the floor." So I don't know what he's alluding to.
Wow.
I'm assuming that has to do with something internally with his team, maybe not in his personal life. Maybe he's sending a message to somebody on his team. I don't know. Kind of cryptic.
It is, but it raises more red flags because when LeBron speaks, obviously everyone listens, and that's a loaded
Yeah.
answer to a question right there. And more people are going to probe and try to find out what is going on with the Lakers, especially just by gauging the way they're playing.
The last couple of days, we've had some people comparing a couple of players to Larry Bird. Greg Popovich said Jokic reminds him of Larry Bird because he does everything. And then you've got a few people comparing Luka to Larry Bird here. Pretty high praise for these two players. Of those two, who's more like Larry Bird, in your opinion?
Luka.
Okay.
I love Coach Popovich, arguably one of my favorite coaches in the league. Both are talented in Jokic and Luka, but in terms of Larry Bird was a straight assassin scorer. He would put 35 on you in a half. I don't think, and he had that killer instinct. Luka more has that killer instinct offensively and can pass the basketball. He just doesn't have the size. Larry was a true 6'9", a big, long 6'9". 7 foot is the Joker, and he doesn't have that killer instinct offensively. He can score, but he's not trying to come in each and every night and embarrass you. Luka tries to embarrass you, I think. So in terms of who's closer to Larry Bird, in my opinion, it would be Luka Doncic.
And watching the game with the Clippers and the Mavs, and while Porzingis and Luka had good games there was something that was interesting, and that was Kawhi all of a sudden went into playoff Kawhi mode. Yeah. And wow, like it's tangible. You're watching it and you go, uh-oh. And then he said afterwards, like he's getting locked in. And he doesn't say much. I don't know much about him, but that was a look, or there was a feel to the game. And I know it's the Mavs, but I saw something that is I rarely see, where you see somebody go, I'm going to flip a switch. Now I'm a different player, a different person. And Kawhi was like that last night.
And to your point, when you just asked me Lakers or Clippers, and then you tell me about the quote from LeBron, something's going on possibly internally with my team. And on the flip side, you hear the Clippers and Kawhi saying, I'm getting locked in, right?
Yeah,
so
I know.
It's two different things. And Kawhi, when we talk about being able to affect the game at both ends, look, Luka is a fantastic young player, but Kawhi Leonard looks at that as a challenge, right? And they potentially could face in the first round. I believe Dallas is currently in the 7th spot and the Clippers are in the 2nd spot. So this is a potential first round matchup. And you've got Kawhi and Paul George saying, oh, okay, well, we're going to give you something to think about in about 10 days when we see you. And I think they're trying to send a message.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out, though. And it feels like the Clippers are just quiet. They don't want to make any headlines unless they go to a strip club. They just want to go. They're just waiting. Where, everybody focuses on the Lakers. Either good or bad, they're the focus. That now they're shooting. Now they're offense. Now this is a big deal as, we end up with the regular season. Clippers are just, they're approaching it the right way from the standpoint of not saying anything. They got a deep roster there, got a great coach. And you got one guy who's done it before a couple of times. That value of having a player who's done it. And those other Clippers players are going, he can do it. Like, I'm waiting for Paul George to be a big-time player. I'm waiting for that, just like I am Anthony Davis. Those are the two guys that I want to see. So I think which one of those two steps up in a bigger way might decide who wins between the Lakers and the Clippers. I think that much of Anthony Davis' ability to be able to dominate. What do you think?
Well, Theodore, look, this is Doc Rivers' slogan coming in to the restart: win the wait. And right now, and rightfully so, the pressure should be on the Lakers. You go out and get LeBron James, generational type player. You add Anthony Davis. They have the championship. They have the Hall of Famers. They have all the banners hanging in Staples. For so many years, the Clippers have been, the little brother. So there's less pressure on them, and I think they're approaching this the right way. That's why all the pressure is on Anthony Davis. You know, you've been first team All NBA. You're in line for Defensive Player of the Year this year, but you played in New Orleans. You wanted out. You got out. You came to the mega hot Los Angeles Lakers. We mentioned all the Hall of Famers, centers, and power forwards that have played in this organization. So the lights are a little bit brighter now. It's time to shine. You can't come out and take 7 shots and have 9 points, and then the next game you come out and have 40. The consistency has to be there for AD. And for the flip side, for the Clippers, remember Paul George was runner-up MVP last year while his time in OKC. Now he's had to take a back seat coming to the Clippers because you've got a guy who's won 2 Finals MVP in Kawhi Leonard. But I like the chances of the Clippers because of that length and what they can do at the defensive end with all those perimeter players, Theodore.
Every time I watch the Pelicans, I go back to a comment you made that Brandon Ingram wasn't a big city guy, that he needed to get out of L.A., and that New Orleans was perfect for him. Lonzo Ball had to get away from his dad and the whole pressure there, and that it feels like he is like these guys were able to exhale. It felt like they got there. But look at this lineup here and what the Pelicans have as they move forward. If you look at the nucleus, would you be confident that this is a perennial playoff team in what you have in New Orleans? And if not, what do they have to have?
Well, is Zion going to be healthy and play 32 to 36 minutes a game?
Do you think he can do that, Reg? Because
he hasn't shown it, right?
I don't know if he's. I think he's great, but I don't know if he's. There was an article yesterday. A doctor said he's in a race against his body. Of as big as he is he always going to be this explosive? And then what do you rely on when you're not that explosive? And he's going to get bigger. So I don't know.
I hope he doesn't get bigger because look, I love the strength and the power that he plays with. Don't get me wrong, but I personally believe he is too heavy to be playing this. And I think that's why they have kid gloves on him right now.
Yeah.
I think they're managing his minutes because they don't want a major injury, because I believe he is too heavy. He needs to shed, they kept saying, during the 4.5 months, he put on, 10 pounds of muscle. He doesn't need muscle. He needs to be a little bit leaner. So the knees and the lower back, there's not so much pressure on there. So I hope going forward, if they're going to manage his minutes, they need to manage his food intake, because he needs to take off 15, 20, 25 pounds if he wants to play 32 to 36 minutes and play 70 to 82 games next season, which they're hoping for, the league is hoping for.
Yeah.
But he needs to lose weight.
But do you remember facing a young Charles Barkley when he was the
I do.
The large round
mound of rebound.
Yeah.
But did you see how Charles moved when his early days in Philadelphia? It's a lot like a Zion. I think Zion was probably a little bit more powerful, especially in his finishes and his dunks. But Charles never got hurt. And he was able even extend his career by losing weight the older he got.
Yeah.
I just think Zion, he looks a little heavy to me.
Oh, he is heavy, but he's putting up like a point per minute when he does play. So it's
play him then.
I know.
Play him.
I know. Reg has got Celtics Raptors so you're doing that game tonight?
I'm doing Toronto Boston.
Okay. My Raptors.
Everyone keeps talking about. What did I say last week when you asked me
I know.
Thing?
I know.
And what have they done so far? They're undefeated here in the bubble, and they're taking names. And
I know.
A scary team.
Yes, they are. He's Reggie Miller. He'll be on the call tonight. Reg, good to talk to you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you at some point next week.
Thank you, Theodore. Thank you, my Danettes.